Somebody asked me today, they said, so there's this concept, it's actually an ancient concept, it goes back 2,500 years. It's what Buddha taught. It's also what was taught in the Indian tradition, Hindu tradition, and still is. It's been retained throughout that period. It's a word that's a little bit, the spiritual New Age people have got hold of it, and they basically use it as a marketing ploy. And what it is Nirvana. And what Nirvana is liberation from suffering. So this is what Buddha announced, was that he teaches freedom from suffering. That's it. And he clarified what suffering is. In life, we experience adversity. In one way of looking at it is life is adversity, really. Some people appear to experience charmed lives, but all they're actually doing is saving up their adversity. And there are other people who have like a drumbeat of adversity, and then there's other folks who nothing comes along for a while, and then there's 2 or 3 adversities. So it's a bit like buses. And there are other people that have the most shocking experiences in their lives. People from war zones and places where there are civil conflicts and so on. And also if you're really unlucky, because we're at the high end of adversity, we're quite blessed in London. Whatever we might feel about the coronavirus and other similar things. So even with that, we're still blessed and privileged and lucky and have a limited amount of adversity compared to many, many other countries. This adversity happens and we encounter it and we experience it, and largely my focus is on resilience, which is the capacity to recover from it. But what happens is when we experience trauma, and when I use the word here, I don't mean complex trauma, disaster level trauma. What I mean is anything that actually requires healing. So in the same way that you can break your leg and smash it into 15 pieces, or you can just break your ankle, and they both need to be healed. And you can, I had a friend who we used to refer to as bionic because he'd crashed his motorcycle and they'd rebuilt his leg, and you'd never know it. And so you could have somebody else, they shatter their ankle and twist their ankle or whatever, and that's it. So there's still the same process of healing. And interestingly enough, a lot of the things that benefit people physiologically for a large trauma also work for a smaller one. So it is not about the intensity of the trauma, it's about the healing process, and can we effectively heal. And this is the same with the mind. And that's what this concept of nirvana, liberation, awakening is. It's all about dealing with the consequences of the difficulties we experience in our lives. There's no way of avoiding them. They're mandatory. But as Buddha pointed out, the suffering that we retain is optional. So for example, I'm able-bodied at the moment. Let's say something happened and I was no longer able-bodied. There would be 2 sets of challenges. One set of challenges would be me gaining my mobility or whatever it happens to be and making the most of it. The other challenge would be about how I feel about people who perceive me to be disabled and how I perceive myself. So let's say you're an athlete and then all of a sudden you can't get around. Pinned your self, the you that you believe you are, I am an athlete, and now you can't do this athletics anymore. There's a sense of loss and grief and unfairness and so on, and that's the healing process, is recognizing all of this accepting it, processing it, understanding it's part of life. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat throughout your entire life. And literally, that's what these ancient texts teach us. And the tool that they teach is meditation. That tool enables us to be able to work with all of this accumulated suffering of ours and release a lot of it by recognizing that the world isn't necessarily the way that we or our culture or our peers or our family might see it, and learning those things that are absolutely true and those things that are actually a little bit of a lie that we may have adopted, or we may have created for ourselves, that are actually causing us suffering. And this all arises in meditation. But to get there, our mind needs to be calm. So the emotional processing stage, I think is a stage of meditation, comes about by gaining a calm enough mind to observe the whole internal process, all the thoughts, the emotions, and get sensitive enough to it to understand what's happening. I think when we visited Mingyur Rinpoche, he actually covered this subject, partly because I asked him a question about it, as Neil pointed out the other day, about suffering. It's either in his book or in that talk. He's a great Buddhist meditation teacher. He said he had a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic when he was younger, but he became familiar enough with it that he began to greet it like old friends. So that panic, that anxiety, there it is again. You're recognizing it. And that's actually the opposite of what our culture does. So this recognition, this understanding arises when the mind is calm enough. And what we need to do is to be able to get there. We're now about to get to the place where the mind's calm enough. And it's that only really ever takes time. And then while we're doing this, we also notice the emotional responses. So let's say we've had a bit of a day. We notice the consequences of that, and the conflict and friction, internal conflict and friction, and external conflict and friction. One could say that a lot, if not all, of suffering is this friction. It's the external world isn't as we desire it to be. So our modern world is all about selling you stuff, beginning to end. This need to market ideas, concepts, stuff, and experiences has become so much a part of it. There's not very much that you can do that doesn't have that element in it. And it's the same message. And there's a great book by a guy called Sean Ackle, who's a positive psychologist. And he hit the nail on the head in this book. It's called The Happiness Advantage. And it says, the equation for happiness is broken. Work harder, be more successful, then you can be happy. And what happiness is the absence of suffering. So it's nirvana, happiness. If you're liberated from all of the things that drag you down, that's what you're left with, happiness. So happiness is the ability to experience neutral experiences and find them fulfilling. There I am at the bus stop, there I am sitting underneath a tree, there I am in a queue at a railway station, there I am with a lot of other people on the train? And am I able to gain fulfillment from that experience? That's the test, but the actual experience itself that gets us there is releasing all of our suffering. So now, right at the beginning of this journey of understanding and familiarizing, you know what I say, meditation's about becoming familiar with the mind, then comfortable with the mind, is it won't shut up. It won't shut up. Usually it's got some bit between its teeth about how life is unsatisfactory in some way. And if we've had an adversity, it will grab hold of that and say, ha, look, life really isn't on your side. It's got it in for you. Let's just focus on the it's busy rather than what the message is. And this is the tool to unbusy the mind. And the way that it works, it's just a sound, but it's a sound that we can notice moving through time. And if we notice that tiny little 300 milliseconds, then nothing else is in that. There's nothing else in it. Just the sound. Stay with the sound moving through time. Notice the mind's tendency to wander. Stay with it. And stay with the movement through sound and the movement through time. And so you can notice the same effect, the movement of the present moment, in all sound. So we can notice sound, and here in the park, we're fortunate. There's chatter, birds, creaky doors, occasional movement in the building. Distant sound of traffic. The occasional airplane. And it is there for us to experience it as a tiny sliver of time. And the breath is there for the same purpose. As is the wind and whatever other sounds there might happen to be wherever you happen to be. And then if we check in with our body, and we can do that just by adopting an open, balanced and relaxed posture. So just by moving our body into a more relaxed place with the elbows at the side, head balanced comfortably on top of the spine, feet flat on the floor. The body will send us messages on where the tension is, where the tightness is. And there will be tension and tightness in the back and sides of the neck and shoulders. It's a universal almost experience to have the shoulders raised slightly, for us to be leaning forward a bit, for our heads to be tilted back. And so noticing the rising and falling of the shoulders pays particular attention to the out-breath. If you make the out-breath slightly audible, maybe in the mouth, the back of the throat, the nostrils, as you breathe out, we can briefly extend the out-breath. And noticing the shoulders rising and falling, extending the out-breath, we're then just focusing our attention on the shoulders as we breathe out. And we can adjust our posture. To find the most comfortable place, only because that's where there's least tension. So it's as if we're letting the tension drift out of the body on the out-breath and letting it drift out of the shoulders. And so if you place the tips of the thumb and forefinger very, very gently in contact, The elbows are by the side and the head's balanced comfortably. And we're just noticing the out-breath. We can allow ourselves to become aware of the weight of the arms pulling down on the shoulders. And this is happening while we're noticing the movement of the present moment through time. The sounds are still there. To help the present moment drift through time. And the breath is there. And the gentle releasing of the tension around the shoulders and back and sides of the neck is there. As we're letting the weight of our arms pull the shoulders down. Now if we just move our attention to the belly and the rising and falling of the belly. And we're noticing the movement of the belly. And notice that this takes time as well. The belly rising, we're noticing it from its lowest point, moving up to its highest point. And the belly falling. And we're noticing it moving down to its lowest point. So noticing the breath all the way in. Same way we were noticing sound moving through the sound of the bell. Noticing the breath moving all the way out. So returning, coming back to this tiny little sliver of time. Moving through the long period of our entire lives. And moving through the long period of the in-breath and the long period of the out-breath. Notice that tiny point of focus on the breath is so small, there's no room for anything else in it. No thoughts can happen in there, there can't be any emotions in it, there can't be any experiences in it. It's such a tiny little sliver of time. And now gently bringing our attention up to the forehead and crown of the head. And if you don't get any sensations from the forehead, if you can't feel anything there, what you do is just put your palm of your hand very close to the forehead without actually touching. So you can feel the warmth and you can feel a tingling. And then when you put your palm back down, the tingling's still there, except now it's probably combined with a coolness. So now placing the tongue up against the back of the top teeth, so it's in contact with the sharp part of the bottom teeth. Breathing in and out, and on the out breath this time, what we do is we bring our attention down forehead, eyebrows, eyes and cheeks. Breathing in and breathing out, forehead, eyebrows, eyes and cheeks. Just moving our attention down this tiny little sliver of time. We're noticing it moving down the face. Forehead, eyebrows, eyes and cheeks. So our awareness is moving down the face with the out breath. And now bringing our attention to the nostrils, just at the point where the air enters and leaves the nostrils. But just noticing that sensation in that place. And again, the progress of time throughout the cool in-breath and throughout the warm out-breath. You'll notice your mind drifting, your mind wandering. It's all fine. We just refocus over and over and over again on the breath entering and leaving the nostril. And again, checking in. Elbows by the side. Are we comfortable in the chair? Feet flat on the floor. Want to readjust. Checking, is the tongue against the back of the top teeth, in contact with the sharp part of the bottom teeth. Notice that enhances our breathing, causing us to breathe from the belly, deeper diaphragmatic breathing. One of the many benefits. And as we breathe out, this time scanning downwards, beginning at the nostrils, just at the point where the air enters and leaves the nostrils. And we, on the out breath, we're moving our attention down over the mouth and the lips, jaw and throat. You may notice tiny little bit more relaxation with each out breath. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Some people do and some people don't. Doesn't matter. Breathing in, noticing the sensation of the cool in-breath in the nostrils. Breathing out, mouth and lips, jaw and throat. Now gently moving the attention to the movement of the belly. Rising and falling of the belly. And if it helps, if your mind's busy, we can note the breath rising and falling. Saying on the in-breath, rising, on the out-breath, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. If sounds intervene, notice that the sounds are moving through time at the same speed that the breath is. Gently checking in with the posture. Just noticing in a downward wave of awareness starting at the forehead, moving down the body. You're just focusing on it, scanning it downwards. And it's telling you whether there's any tightness or discomfort or anything that you need to intervene in. Shoulders, do we need to release any tension from there? Is the head balanced comfortably? Are you settled into your chair or on your yoga mat? Settle into the chair, sitting like a frog as we teach children. If you're lying, you just let the hips open up and the back. Now bringing your attention to your hands. So if you kept the chin mudra with the fingertips and the thumb tips in contact, they'll be fairly relaxed. We're aware of the temperature of the hands, coolness or warmth. Feeling of whatever the hands are in contact with. Could be the fabric of your clothing, for example, if the hands are on the thighs. And breathing out, maintaining your awareness on the hand. So breathing in, using the movement of the belly. To be aware of the movement of the breath. And as we breathe out, we're gently letting the tightness out of the hands. And now letting the experience of the breath into your awareness. The breath in the nostrils and the breath in the belly. The movement of the breath in the chest and the shoulders. It's a very subtle, it's a very soft, it's a very light awareness. You can note it in your mind. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. So this is relaxing the mind and relaxing the body. Each out breath, releasing tension. And now we can allow this wave of relaxation to move down the entire body. So breathing in, just noticing that the body's filling with air, the shoulders, the belly, the nostrils, and breathing out like a wave of relaxation moving down the body, over the eyes, the jaw, shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, down through your feet and into the floor. And noticing whatever sounds there are out in the park, wherever you happen to be, in the room, in the building. And notice that sound moving through time. At the same speed as the sound of the bell moving through time. Synchronized. And noticing what sounds there are in the park and the sensations in the body. The sense of sitting, whatever it is you can smell and taste. And in your very, very own time, gently, patiently, compassionately, return your attention to your surroundings.